대양 아니 로마남 안데 안데 파 등등 다 등등 쇼르베 간다 dunji기다 간다 조 마제 신셰 엔다 라마도 징고죠.
Next is making the mandala offering, during which I have mentioned divine pride, seeing myself as the Kalachakra deity, indivisible from the Kalachakra deity. Imagine the complete mandala, the mandala of body, speech, and mind of the Kalachakra. First is the speech mandala, and then is the mind mandala, and then the mandala of bliss. So in short, imagine a palace with 3 kinds of mandalas. So imagine the presence of 722 deities within the mandalas of body, speech, and mind. And you should imagine yourself on the eastern door of the body mandala. Now, in allowing you to enter inside the mandala, you should imagine that you are making the 9-step mandala offering.
Any shugwe led to any mental review, some tone, mental sumbu commotions are show. Yeah, that any German chicken, the Doji Niniman Alaria, and there is one in Barry. Dinner talks out there, so Dravala, some Dojita, Persian. Number new, some Persian relation to Kyabje Ling Dorje Chang, the Kundutas. 6대 댐베 6대 내신도 상윤택의 지도 불시지 서울매지 개별 그런지뭐 단단해야 실업 장애는 델레신으로 옹부되고 강 신도 차가 권나 매발 진짜 야원도 개마오 살 디니친의 개별 담바죠 산제 레자 좀더 더지택
Tsong Kappa, in his text called Expressing the Excellent Inferior, says that even though the greatness of Tantra is very well known, like the sun and the moon, even after such renown, if you do not make an effort to understand the meaning of the Tantra, then it is a joke to call yourself a wise person. In order to attain enlightenment, we need to follow 2 paths, the path of perfection, the Sutra path, and the Tantric path. The course vehicle or the Sutra path explains the practice of the 6 perfections, which are the causes of enlightenment, and apart from engaging in practices of the 6 perfections, which are the causal factors, there is no process of practice in which, doing the state of the course, you can meditate on the resultant states. Whereas in the Tantric practice, in addition to all the complete causal practices, there is also a technique to meditate on the resultant states, like the perfect place of the Buddha, the perfect retinue of the Buddha, in other words, the 4 perfect purified states of the resultant state of the Buddha. So, at the level of one's imagination, one can meditate on such resultant states of the Buddha, and thus one can mention pride in these resultant states, and thus one can use these results on the path. So there is this special method and practice that is found in the Tantra that is not there in the Sutra practice.
람냠네 멍시 예배 타라 아니 데뷔 셔다 넘버 드라이브 람 다다네 바 너바 이지 관네 아니 남지 두섭 그게다 남지 두두다 가서 그게 야 믹스하게 그게다 sabke yode ba tindechili ya ini debut thwa sene ande so yin bare sada de debut ni gyunde ge thwa ni ge na ne eno debut thwa.
So out of these 2 paths, the causal vehicle and the resultant vehicle of tantric practice is much more profound. As Tsongkhapa has said, Vajrayana is said to be even rarer than the Buddha himself. Let us take the example of this particular present eon, which is said to be visited by 1,000 Buddhas, and out of which the fourth Buddha, the fourth liberator, was Buddha Shakyamuni. So 4 Buddhas have already visited this eon, and 996 Buddhas are yet to visit. Such a marvelous method, the Tantric practice, which is even rarer than the Buddhas. These Tantric practices in the past, in India, were practiced in a hidden and very secret way, and transmitted only to reliable students and genuine practitioners. And thus, Tantric practice is done in a very secret way. Now, in the case of Tantric practice, there are basically 4 classes of Tantra. The Buddha, as you know, first taught the 4 Noble Truths, and secondly, at Wilder's Peak, he taught the Wisdom Perfection Sutra. And then he taught the sutra which is explained by the Uttara Tantra. And in the Tathagata Garbha Sutra, it speaks about the 9 examples and the 9 meanings, based on which the subject of clear light is explained. I think that it is in this way that students are gradually guided onto the Tantric path. As I explained earlier, the main Tantric practice is focused on activating the primordial clear light mind. And in order to do so, you have to forcibly stop the manifestation of grosser mind and energy. This is possible through undertaking the practice of uniting the red and the white elements in order to make one's mind familiar with such practice. So in the lower Tantric classes, there is a meditation in which one meditates the deities in the mandala in the form of fully ordained bhikshu and so forth. There's also a technique of meditating on the mandala in which you see the deities in the form of a king and his ministers or retinues. And in order to lead to this ultimate practice of forcibly stopping the manifestation of grosser mind and grosser energy, then there's also the practice of gazing at the primal consort and developing joy and using that joy on the path, and touching the hands and embracing and so forth. Such techniques are taught in the 4 classes of Tantra. So all these techniques are taught in courses, and in the case of the highest Tantra, basically the Father Tantra and the Mother Tantra. Mother Tantra refers to a practice whose primary focus is to analyze the ultimate mind of the Buddha. And according to scholars like Tassilo Sawa, Father Tantra refers to a Tantra which focuses on secret initiation, and one which focuses on the wisdom initiation is the Mother Tantra. According to the Kalachakra Tantra, even though subsequent recollection and empty form are explained, the main focus is immutable place, so its main focus is clear light. Therefore, some scholars categorize this as a Mother Tantra. According to some scholars, the Kalachakra Tantra is classified as a non-dualistic Tantra, and it is called Clear Tantra, because it clearly explains the meaning of the 4th initiation, which is the meaning of union. So whether you classify the Kalachakra Tantra as a Mother Tantra or a non-dualistic Tantra, Kalachakra is definitely a tantric practice which is very extensive and profound. External Kalachakra Tantra refers to the external environment, which includes also astrology, and thus there is an extensive presentation. During the explanation of the external Kalachakra, the external environment is explained in detail. And similarly, when you undertake the generation stage practice and see yourself as a deity, then there is also a technical meditation, for example, like a long life deity, and so forth, referring to the external explanations of the Kalachakra. The uniqueness of all this individual Anitra Yoga Tantra is discovered during the completion stage practice. In the completion stage practice, there is this six-branched practice, like individual absorption, concentration, and retention. And right from the time when you dissolve energy into the central channel, with individual withdrawal, and so forth, it is only after Guru Samaja, it is only after dissolving, abiding the dissolution of energy into the central channel, that you enter into the completion stage practice. In accordance with the higher chakra samvara counterpart, in completion stage practice there are two levels. Completion stage practice, when you are trying to activate the clear light, and there is also a completion stage practice, when you already make manifestation of clear light. If you compare these Kalachakra practices, particularly on the six-branched practices, and relate it to other Uttara Tantra practices, you will find Kalachakra Tantra practices very important and extensive. It is uniquely profound. Secondly, in Tibet, according to many genuine and reliable masters, when they gave the Kalachakra initiation, they do not make any restrictions about the numbers of students. So there is also this tradition of giving it to the public. For example, Consort Dorje Chang, when he gave Kalachakra initiation at Ganden, said that irrespective of whether or not one has physically attended the Kalachakra initiation, he said that everyone who was within the compound of Ganden Monastery, that everyone would receive the Kalachakra initiation. What could be the reason for that? Also, there is this connection between Kalachakra and Shambhala. So if you relate yourself to the Kalachakra teachings, then you make some karmic connection. Then one could opt in certain added facilities to leave positive imprints, to be born in Shambhala. In short, in order to undertake the practice of Kalachakra, you must first measure your mind by receiving the initiation. So today we will deal with the part that deals with the process of entering the mandala. Imagine yourself on the eastern door of the mandala. The meaning of it is supramundane victor. Let me enter for great bliss into the city of liberation, the mandala, the joyous bliss of all feats. Through the feat of excellent supreme bliss, may it be thoroughly accomplished. Ya hum bam ho.
Ma Sukha, Mokshapuram, Savasiti, Sukhapadam, Parama, Sukha, Uttama Siddhi, Zao Bao, Parsiti So, Om Pambishaya, Bangavan, Ma Sukha, Mokshapuram, Savasiti, Sukhapadam, Parama Sukha, Uttama Siddhi, Zao Bao, Parsiti So. 나한테는 나도 벽에도 주고 네 전도장 무주 군지 대와 냠가와 탈배 정도 좀 대신 juk 초도 대와 담배 무주기 자오 바오 접도 주번즈 아 쪼와께버 시네 나한테는 디절이야 아니 소하다바 이 말에 난 소하데베
Having developed enthusiasm, next is making a supplication, the meaning of which was explained yesterday. Presently we are controlled by our mind, and our mind is controlled by afflictive emotions. And so long as we are under the control of afflictive emotions, it is not possible to achieve long-lasting peace and happiness. When you are under the control of afflictive emotions, and born again and again within samsara, which is the cycle of existence, we are abiding in this cycle of existence, or in this samsara. And this cycle of existences is compared to that of an ocean. Within that ocean of cycles of existence, we encounter many problems, like suffering of suffering, suffering of change, and we encounter endless sufferings and problems. So in short, we are controlled constantly by afflictive emotions and reflect such a state. It is not only you who has fallen in this ocean of samsara, but all sentient beings are falling into this ocean of samsara and suffering.
And
this costume promotes the mindfulness of the clear appearance of yourself as a deity and pride in yourself as a deity. So you put on various articles of apparel and so forth of the deity. And so the Lama first gives the student the lower robe of various cloths, and then the Lama gives the student the yellow upper robe, and then he gives the red crown protrusion. For the time being, you are not entitled to see the mandala, and you should imagine a blindfold being given. In the future, when you enter the mandala, when you see the deities of the mandala, as a gift, a flower garland is given to you. This blindfold is given to you to indicate that for the time being you are not entitled to see the mandala. The flower garland is given so that you can offer it to the deities of the mandala when you actually enter the mandala. You can tie the blindfold, but do not put the flower on your forehead right now, just keep it in your hand.
ऐसे विचार करेंगे कि कालचक्र मंडल के पूर्व के बाहरी द्वार पर हम उपस्थित हैं और करना है वो अपने हाथ में पकड़ के रखिए.
तादने कमदियां सोशिनदां छोचु जिम गवे 다 도마 소신도 알아 저는 가슴이 시죠.
Here also the student drops the tooth stick for the sake of determining what type of feat they are to work at achieving, and also handfuls of water are given. Yesterday you drank that preparation when we threw the tooth stick. It meant that you were suitable to receive the initiation or not. And here the tooth stick is thrown to determine what type of attainment you will have. As yesterday, we repeat this mantra.
Om A Hung Ho, Hang Kya, Benzadanda, Kakata, Zodur, Bimokya, Mukha, Bishuda, Sumbawa, Kaya Wakazida, Jana, Mukhadanda, Dimalam, Bishudaya Swaha.
May the seed syllables of the 6 lineages, Om, Ah, Hum, Ho, Ham, Ksha, and the Vajra tooth stick, having the nature of purity, of the 4 doors of liberation, purify the defilements of the teeth, and so forth, of the faces of exalted body, speech, mind, and pristine consciousness. Svaha. The tooth stick indicated the attainment of increase. Next is giving a handful of water.
That teacher,
Having purified by the water, the student changes themselves into the Kalachakra deity with a consort. You should imagine again the hindering negative forces are being eliminated. As we discussed earlier, we all have a strong corresponding I, even in dreams. When not analyzed, and when not mistaken for a negative field, there is an I upon which we can lay our hands and we can pinpoint. But in reality, I is something that is merely designated on the body and the mind. And apart from that, there is no objectively existing I. But if you examine this body from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, you cannot find an example by which you can say that this is the I. Similarly, it is the case with your mind. You won't find any such part of the mind as an example of I. So there is no I that you can really touch and say that this is the I. So let us make a conclusive determination on this reality, and having determined and concluded that there is no such self-supporting and independently existing I. In other words, there is no such I which we normally take for granted. But here again, we are not saying that there is no I at all. What we are saying is that it is definite, that there is not such an I as we normally used to think. So let us reflect on that. Based on that, as you have reflected on that, the lack of the independent existence of an I, this very I, apprehending the lack of the existence of an I, is this I. Instantaneously you generate and transport yourself as Kalachakra, blue in color, holding a Vajra and a bell, dwelling with the right leg outstretched, embracing his consort Vishvamata, blue in color and holding a curved knife and skull. So the process of generating one's deity is not simply saying that you are replaced by Kalachakra, but first you meditate on emptiness, and by meditating on emptiness, on the level of that mind meditating on emptiness, the appearance of your present body and mind will not be there. And then bear that in mind. Apprehending the lack of inherent existence body is generated into the Kalachakra deity. Having transformed yourself into Kalachakra deity, then think that there is a black hum on a Rahu disk at the heart, a red Ah on a sun disk at the throat, and a white Om on a clear moon disk at the forehead. Rays of light from the three syllables turn your body into clear light. You also have an interest in achieving enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So when you are asked, "Who are you?" then you should answer, "I am the fortunate one." So during this second portion, what is being asked is, are you someone who is simply interested in the Mahayana path, or also interested in the Tantric path? So therefore, when you are asked, "What do you like?" you should answer by saying, "I desire great bliss." That means that you like the Tantric path. And when you enter the Mahayana Sutric path, it takes a long time to enlightenment. When you enter the Tantric path, then it is much more powerful in the sense that you are able to reach enlightenment in a much shorter time. Not only that, if you simply analyze and simply follow only the Sutric path, then you will be able to achieve certain higher states of realization. But it is not possible to achieve enlightenment, because by following the Sutric path, you are unable to remove the subtlest dualistic appearances, and it is not possible to block the conceptual thoughts like appearance, increase, and attainment. Whereas in the Tantra, there is a practice of developing great bliss as the direct counterforce and eliminating the subtlest dualistic appearances and processes and perceptions. Therefore, if you right from now generate interest in the Tantric path, you will be able to leave positive imprints, and gradually you'll begin to develop such realizations in accordance with the Tantric path. It is through this way that you will be able to achieve Buddhahood. It is by developing great bliss on the path and learning to develop the clear light mind. And thus you are saying that I am interested in the yoga of developing great bliss and primordial clear light mind into an entity of the path. If you have that, then you will also be able to actualize the empty body, as is explained in the Kalachakra. You will also be able to actualize the illusory body. You'll also be able to actualize the amber body. So whatever material you want to prepare, you can prepare that based on your fundamental practice of employing the great bliss and clear light on the path. On the side of the students, it is really important to reflect carefully and bring some transformation in one's mind. And with that, if you answer this, you will leave a very strong imprint to be able to quickly develop realizations in the future. I am the fortunate one, and I desire great bliss. Again, you may ask supplication. This supplication comes from Naropa's commentary on the brief explication of initiations, and the third being from Kulika Pandarika's great commentary. The meaning of this supplication is, I go for refuge to the feet of you, remover of the frights of cyclic existence, unsullied by the faults of cyclic existence, essence of all excellences. The karmic energy is absent, which is not possible to develop the grosser level of emotions. Once you stop the manifestation of karmic energy, which is the more conceptual thoughts, and then the grosser conceptual thoughts will not arise. So it is by removing the karmic energy that conceptual thoughts are stopped. So here you can clearly see that here there are two ways of stopping the manifestation of afflictive emotions. One is to develop wisdom meditating on emptiness, which acts as a counterforce for ignorance. Another is that you develop great bliss by forcibly stopping the manifestation of grosser levels of the mind and energy. It is in this way that the term remover of the fright of the cycle of existence is being stated. The movement of the karmic energy is stopped by using desire of the path. Even though you use desire of the path, you must make sure it is not sullied by the faults of the cycle of existences. Just like a lotus flower, which, even though it is born in the mud, is not sullied by the mud. The essence of all excellences is manifest in the ultimate state of Kalachakra, whose state is totally purified. So expressing the unique activities of the Lama is indivisible from the Kalachakra. From beginningless time, we all have this wish to have happiness. When we are unable to achieve reliable peace and happiness, why is it so? Right from beginningless time, we do not like to experience suffering, but we are full of suffering. Why is it so? This is so because we have allowed the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping to reside peacefully within our mind. This is so because we have allowed the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping to reside peacefully within our mind. So self-cherishing attitudes and self-grasping attitude reside peacefully within our heart, like our own life, and it is because of this that we are confronted with countless sufferings, even though we do not want suffering. So, as an antidote to this, to these two negative attitudes, we should on the one hand develop a mind-cherishing development for other sentient beings. And similarly, we should develop wisdom, realizing emptiness, as an antidote to self-grasping. Unfortunately, until now, we sought the support of these two negative emotions, and we made friends with them. And it is because of this that today we are in this plight in the cycle of existence. So today it is important to take the pulse of the destructive nature of these two negative emotions. Do not confide in them and do not rely on them. And thus you see the Lama, who is indivisible from the Kalachakra deity, who is the sole protector. For me, there is no other refuge from the inexhaustible frights of cyclic existence. Therefore, being very compassionate, be kind to me today. Frightened by awful cyclic existence, from today I especially go for refuge to the Buddhas. With pure body, speech, and mind, also to your lotus feet, definitely removing the frights of cyclic existence. So, remembering these meanings, repeat this supplication 3 times.
대외 닝지 천재네 드린 달러 거진 줄 드린이네 미세 코레 지바다니 야완남라 떼수 학벌치 최지 섭기 추지 내발 시벤 직조 달러앙 류마 심니 다베소 다들 소하다 버티죠 다들 되셔야 지주섭에 떠봐서 임바래
Next is receiving the bodhisattva vow. The bodhisattva vow is called the common vow because it is a vow that is received both in the sutra and the tantra. And the tantric vow is uncommon vow because it is explained only in the tantra and not in the sutra. The bodhisattva vow is also common in the sense that it is a practice found in all the 4 classes of tantra, whereas the tantric vow is said to be uncommon because it is found only in the yoga tantra and not in the first 2 classes of tantra. In order to receive these common bodhisattva vows, as I explained to you earlier, imagine the whole mandala and special vow, and imagine the presence of the Buddha Shakyamuni. Around him, imagine the presence of Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, the lamas of the profound view. Similarly, Asanga and Vasubandhu, and their students who are all attending in addition to themselves. Sangasana, the Master Stevkin, Master of Epistemology, and the Nagas. Imagine all these great knowledge holders, great masters, and similarly, imagine the greatly accomplished masters of the cities, the Arya Homi of India, and similarly imagine the presence of all the great masters of all the 4 Tibetan Buddhist schools of thought. And similarly imagine all the great masters who have developed mind for the benefit of all sentient beings, and who engage in activities benefiting all sentient beings.
데네네 표 간생의 종교에 아니 지금 사격권이 리수 마셔베 아니 땡징이 기분 담아
When we talk about all sentient beings, it includes all past, including oneself. Around yourself, imagine the presence of all the countless suffering sentient beings. If you reflect carefully, until now, we all do not want suffering. We all want happiness. But our plight is that in addition to many natural problems, natural disasters, there are many man-made problems and sufferings, even though we all want happiness. But none of us not only do not have long-lasting peace and happiness, but we are even deprived from temporary requirements and needs. What is the cause of all this? The cause is that because of the lack of our undisciplined state of mind, primarily lies in the presence of self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping. In order to transform our mind, the only way is to follow the way of the Buddha. And through that way, you should eliminate self-cherishing attitude and eliminate the object of apprehension of self-grasping. It is in this way that we will realize selflessness or emptiness. The state of enlightenment is a state of two purifications, a state of natural purity and a state of purity which is shaped by developing positive counterforces. So we should develop an appreciation to actualize the Dharmakaya, which is the state of having two purifications. And then you take refuge in Buddha Dharma and the Sangha in order to focus your purposes and perfect the purposes of other sentient beings. I will develop mind towards the Buddhahood. It is in this way that you develop the expressional bodhicitta. And having such an expressional bodhicitta, you invite all sentient beings as your guests. That means that you make a promise and determination that you will fulfill the purposes of all other sentient beings. Having invited them as your guests, there are two purposes, temporary and ultimate. Their temporary purpose is to achieve higher status, and their ultimate purpose is liberation and enlightenment. So it is by showing the right path that you will be able to fulfill your temporary purposes and ultimate purposes. In order to do that, you should lead a life and engage in a practice which is pleasing and beneficial to these sentient beings. The behavior of a bodhisattva is to show the path by which sentient beings are able to achieve liberation and enlightenment. Such behavior is called pleasing behavior because it is non-violent behavior, and it is behavior of peace, and it is beneficial. In order to live the last 9 deeds, in order to benefit all sentient beings, may I achieve the state of Buddhahood. To aspire to Buddhahood or enlightenment for yourself, so that you are able to benefit other sentient beings, and the achievement of Buddhahood is very much dependent on the practice of the way of life of the Bodhisattva. So it isn't a question whether you should practice the bodhisattva life when you are in the mood. But here you make a commitment to engage in the way of life of a bodhisattva throughout all times to come. And it is for that sake that you receive the bodhisattva vow. Now, when in this regard, the Panchen Lama, the great master Daryen Shepa, has said that Tantric practice is such a wonderful practice that it is like touching the naked truth of the three bodies of the Buddha. It is by Tantric practice that you transform the three basic bodies, or kayas, to the three true kayas. So according to him, even though you are unable to practice properly, and you receive the Tantric vow, even if you fall into a negative state of existence, it is worth risking it. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Individually disclose all ill deeds. Admire the virtues of beings, and mentally take up the enlightenment of a Buddha. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment. Admire the virtues of beings, and mentally take up the enlightenment of a Buddha. I take refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha until I achieve enlightenment, in order to fulfill my purpose and the purposes of other sentient beings. I will generate bodhicitta. Having developed bodhicitta, I will invite all other sentient beings as my guests and lead a pleasing way of life to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. When you repeat this for the second time, once again, you should see all other sentient beings as yourself, wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. In your case, you are just one individual, whereas in the case of other sentient beings, they are infinite, countless. I have today found this precious human life and encountered the precious Bodhidharma, and therefore, in order to fulfill the greater purpose, I will relinquish minor purposes, and therefore, henceforth, I will not just get confused only with my personal well-being, but I will try my best to benefit other sentient beings. In short, the very purpose of my life henceforth will be to benefit other sentient beings. So, with that kind of attitude, I can understand, then, your interest in receiving the Bodhisattva vow. Repeat this. Having repeated this 2 times, when you repeat this for the 3rd time, you should begin to strengthen your desire to take the Bodhisattva vow. Your desire to engage in the ways of the life of the Bodhisattva. And we should appreciate the wonderful examples of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And before long, I will myself become a Bodhisattva and a Buddha, as I am imagining today. I will try to lead a pleasing way of life similar to those of the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas. And the last line, may I achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Then you should think that you have developed a genuine Bodhisattva vow. And if you have already developed a Bodhisattva vow earlier, then you should think that it is being amplified. Sit down, please. It is extremely fortunate to be able to generate such a bodhisattva vow, and it is in this way that we have collected the main course for achieving Buddhahood. Using these as a seed, you can make yourself definite to achieve enlightenment in the future. Negative activities like deceiving others, exploiting others, engaging in dishonesty, these are negative activities that are not in harmony with the lineage of the Buddha. In my own case also, I try in my heart to develop such bodhicitta and to make the bodhisattva vow, and you, as my friend, should try your best to undertake such a practice. It is in this way that you will travel from peace to peace, and every day will be a peaceful day. And if you are able to do that, how wonderful that will be. Let us not forget to mention that by thinking about the welfare of other sentient beings, you will fulfill your own purposes. And when you finally achieve Buddhahood, and then of course there is no need to talk about the benefit and peace that you will achieve. But even when you are on the state of turning and developing such an altruistic mind, you derive personal benefit. Next is saying the Tantric vow. Please repeat this. After having made the requested supplication for receiving the Tantric or mantra vow, next is receiving the uncommon mantra vows, which again strengthen your wish for enlightenment and the commitment to achieve it as quickly as possible. It is based on a feeling of urgency to achieve enlightenment. You receive the uncommon mudra vow. First you make a request for Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, then you recount your name. Once you recount your name, it will help you to not transplace your commitments. In the case of receiving the Bodhisattva vow, you receive it until you achieve enlightenment. In the case of the uncommon mantra vow, the limit is on the achievement of enlightenment. What kind of vows are you taking here? You are taking a vow which is like the life force of all the tantric practices, of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. So this is the only path, the only special method by which one can achieve enlightenment. Having developed such a mind, I will describe the 3 forms of effects, the difficult precepts, the composite of virtuous practices, and bringing about the welfare of sentient beings. Then you also make a commitment to abide by the pledges of the 5 Buddha lineages. For the 5-pointed Vajra lineage of Akskobaya, I will maintain Vajra, bell, seal, and Lama with the crown of my head. In the case of the lineage of Ratnasambhava, I will give gifts. For the wheel lineage of Vajra, I will keep the pledges of the supreme conquerors. You will train in the 10 practices of giving. For the sword lineage of Amagasiddhi, I will make offerings. For the bright lotus lineage of Amitabha, I will maintain restraint. Maintaining this tantra refers to abandoning the bliss of emission, even though one makes use of a consort, and thereby maintains pure behavior. So that sentient beings may be liberated, I will, for the Vajrasattva lineage of the progenitor of conquerors, generate enlightenment. In short, you are saying that you will receive the Tantric vow in order to liberate those sentient beings that are not liberated from obstructions or admissions, and to release those not released from the cycle of existence, and to relieve those unrelieved in bad transmigrations, and accept sentient beings in nirvana. So these pledges are part of the generation stage, the cause, the entity, the effect, and the action. And this actually refers to the 4 liberations.